Hey guys, Bobby Hughes here with Heritage Pride Custom Firearms, back for video 2 of the Heritage Pride Homestead Gun Shop, or the HPFirearms World Headquarters. Today we're going to be working on roughing in our electrical system in our little addition. In the last video we got our wall framed up, wanted to get more done but couldn't get it to happen, just ran out of time. But anyway, so in today's video we're going to start roughing in the electrical, trying to get that done so that we can prepare for the insulation and sheeting to go in here, as well as on the garage wall, so on and so forth. So anyway, just like the other video, these videos, there's not a lot of meat and potatoes to it. So what I'm going to try to do is just kind of lightly touch on some of the how-to aspect of what I'm actually working on at the time. Showed you a little bit about stick framing on the last video, so today I'm going to show you a little bit about rough-in electrical. Electrical is really easy to do. It's really simple. A lot of people are intimidated by it. You shouldn't be intimidated. Don't fear it, but have a respect for it. Know that it can hurt you, but the biggest #1 thing that you need to do before you do any electrical is just make sure that it's dead. Make sure that it's turned off. Okay? So I'm not going to ramble very much on this intro piece here. Just want to tell you we're going to be doing a little bit of electrical today. If you're interested in learning how to do electrical, it's very easy to get into, and it's not that hard to understand. Residential electrical's not. Like I said, a lot of people are intimidated, but it's a pretty simple thing to learn. There's very few components to it. The biggest thing to remember is just keep everything going in one direction, and also keep in mind your local codes, national code. Research that, read up on that. And things, you know, to make sure that you're doing it right. You can only put so many outlets on one circuit. You can only have so many amps drawn on a certain amount of wire. So you need to know, what your max is on different things. So the best way to do that, if you're wanting to kind of do a little project on your own, is there's a book. It's called Ugly's Handbook. Ugly is U-G-L-Y-S. Ugly's Handbook, electrical handbook. He makes them for plumbing and some other stuff too, but the electrical handbook is really a great little tool to show you what, like, the max amperage that you can draw on a 12-2 Romex or on a 14-2 Romex, so on and so forth. So that'll tell you how big a lot of people, when their breakers kick, they think, well, I'll just put a bigger breaker in. But you shouldn't do that, because your 12-2 is only rated for so many amps. If you put a bigger breaker in there and something happens, that breaker doesn't kick and your wire burns, that could catch your house on fire. So be sure you know what you're doing before you get into it, but it's very simple. Like I said, don't be scared of it, but know what you're doing. And so today what I'm going to do is kind of show you, a little bit of rough-in. We'll talk about some of the components of the rough-in electrical process. It's one of my favorite processes in building, is when you get to the electrical part, because you get to kind of think futuristic. Like, you really want to plan where things are going to go in your home, and then put an outlet or a switch or a light or whatever that'll accent that, or that will work in conjunction with that. So for me, I'm really thinking about where I'm going to put everything in my gun room now. Like, where is my reloading area going to be versus my gunsmithing area and my safe and stuff like that. So I'm really thinking ahead, trying to decide, because that'll dictate where I put my electrical, and how many outlets I put in, and what height I put them at, things like that. So that's another thing you need to think about. Like, a lot of times where we're at, in garages and basements, your outlets need to be higher because there's possibility of water. So just different things like that. You gotta know the codes, know the rules, and a lot of times you'll have to get inspections based on where you're at. Here, for what I'm doing, we don't need an inspection, but it's good to know that you might need one. So if you don't know, ask. Contact your local, your city or county zoning office or whatever. A lot of times they're more of a hindrance than they are a help. Sometimes you'll open a can of worms you don't want to get into, but it's better to be safe than be sorry. So anyway, I'm going to get set up here, and we'll get some holes drilled and boxes set and wire pulled, and I'll kind of talk to you about the components. It's very simple. There's very minimal components. I'll talk to you about them while I'm doing it, so that way we can keep trucking and we don't make a really long drawn out video over something as simple as rough-in wiring. So anyway, stick with me, and I'll get started here in just a second. Alright guys, so I spent the last little bit, actually I spent the last long while really trying to decide how I wanted my shop to be laid out. And so I think I finally got it, and I'll go over that with you here in a second. But you can see here, right here in the corner, this is where we was at before when I was telling you. There was a pigtail that goes from that box right there, it goes up, so that we don't have to go around the corner with it. We go up and over and then back down to that box right there. And then you see it just daisy chains. The wire just runs through holes in the wall, and we drill those holes in the studs. Then it gets to that one over there, and you can see the wire, it goes back up through the stud, and then it comes actually, let me see if I can just show you there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but there's an outlet box right up there on the ceiling. There's actually going to be an outlet there, and that is to hang my Dremel. I had one hanging in the shop before, and it's really neat to be able to roll the cord up and just plug it up there and not have a cord hanging down the wall. That's so I can hang my Dremel with my detail wand on it to do like my engraving and routing and stuff with that. So it goes to that, and then it goes over and it comes back down and it hits a high outlet right over there on the wall, and I think you'll be able to see, you can see the yellow wire sticking out right there, and that's for, there's going to be a shelf that runs up above the safe over there, and I wanted to put an outlet up there just in case I wanted to put a radio or something up on the shelf. I'd have a plug up there for it. So now I'm ready to run the wire, and I'm going to show you guys kind of how I run wire. It's real simple, but there's an outlet right there, outlet box that I've installed. The hole's already drilled, but we need to daisy chain the power from that one to the other one, and it's really simple to do, and I'm going to show you real quick how I do it. Usually when I run wire, I'll run one box at a time, and I just start my roll of wire over wherever the box that I'm running to is, and I start and run backwards basically. So I'm going to, here, leave that alone, buddy. Leave that in there, okay? So I'm going to start over here at this box, and I'm going to feed backwards. So I'm going to pull my wire through, give me a little bit of slack out of it, and then I'm going to this box right here. I'm just going to pull my wire right into that box, and then kind of form my wire so that it doesn't look tacky. I'm kind of OCD about it. So then I'll take a couple of wire staples and go ahead and staple it in here, and it keeps it nice and tight to the stud as we go down. Now I apologize for the lighting here. I know it's kind of dark right now, but I'll tell you one thing, it won't be as dark once we get done. You guys have been around for a while and seen some of my gun videos. My other shop was pretty dark, especially in the very first videos. I finally put another light in, and it helped a little bit. But we're going to put plenty of light in this one. So now I've got my wire ran from here down over to this box. And then all I'm going to do is just take and pull a little bit of slack on it. Better to have too much than not enough. Alright, so if you have to cut 6 inches of wire off, you have to cut 6 inches of wire off. It's just the nature of the beast. So then we just pull that wire into the box. Make it nice and pretty. And then we can go ahead and put a staple right there. My helper's backing up to me over here. Just like that. And that's how I run my wire. I run it backwards. So that's the easiest way that I found to do it. I do a lot of wire pulling, so that works best for me. Now from this box, we're actually going to go from here back up, because there's no more outlets here. Buddy, how'd your boot come off? Hang on just a second. You're going to run a wire from here back up into the ceiling again, and then we don't have any more outlets or anything on this corner, but up here in the top, I'm going to actually put in a junction box. And basically I'm going to have my power coming into the junction box, and I need to feed two different directions, and I don't want to run wire all the way down there and then turn around and come all the way back. So I'm going to install a junction box. That'll allow me to bring that in and bring in two wires, one to feed the light switch over here and one to feed an outlet out in the garage. So over next to the door. So what I'll do is pull the wire up, put in a junction box, and then I've already got the wire ran over for the other outlet, so we'll tie that one in, and then we'll bring another one over and pull it down for the light switch, and that'll power our switches. That'll get power to our switches, and then all of our 12-2 will be pulled, and then we can start pulling in the 14-2 for the lights. So let me finish up this little bit of the 12-2 work, and then I'll show you the boxes, the new construction boxes, how they work, how they attach, and then we'll pull some 14-2 from the switches into the lights. So let me finish that up and we'll get on to that. Alright guys, so I've got all of my 12-2 Romex pulled in. All my outlets are roughed in. All my daisy chaining's done. I've got all my wires up there for the junction to feed the outlet out in the garage. And then I brought it, because we came in here, and daisy chain's over there, runs around the room, comes back up and down and around, and back up. It's going to hit the junction box, and then from the junction box it's going to feed the outlet out in the garage, and then it's going to come across here. It comes across the ceiling, inside the ceiling joists. And because I've got a beam here, I can't drill all the way through the beam and run the wire through there. It'll compromise the integrity of the beam. So what we're going to do is I ran it over, and then I pulled it down on the face of the beam. Now the sheeting will go up, and what I'll do is I'll notch the sheeting for that wire, and then once we get it all done, we'll just build a little box, a little finished box, and put over the wire, and that way you won't see it. And that's really the best case scenario for a construction like this, where we need it in this wall without trying to drill angled corners and all this other jazz. We just bring it over and then bring it down. We'll put a little piece of trim there. Now if it was in somebody's house, it would be different, but out here in the shop and for this application, it'll work just fine. So the Romex comes down, it hits this outlet box here, which is, you'll notice, is backwards. That's to feed this side here. Ideally, I think what's going to happen is my compressor and my welder, I'm going to put on out in the garage right here, and then I'm going to install a air system that'll feed air over to where my tools and stuff will be, and then also I'm going to feed the shop with compressed air, and then the compressor will actually be outside. If you remember up in Wisconsin, it would have been super nice to have air there, and in the shop there's a lot of times I didn't have that, and so in this shop we're going to have air, compressed air for that. So anyway, it runs from there, and then it runs over, and this is our switch box. Our switch box is going to control the lights in the shop, as well as I'm going to put run a leg up into the loft above me so that I can put a light out there. I have a light out in the garage, but it's not very bright. It's just a standard shop light, but it does okay for the garage because I'm not really doing much out there. But this is going to be our prep storage up here, and there'll be times when I might need to get up there and be able to actually see what I'm doing up there. So I'm going to go ahead and put a light up there, and that switch will work that. So now that all the switches and outlets are in, all of our power is supplied, now we need to run our switch legs for our lights. Now in this case, what I'm going to use, I think in this shop, is I'm going to be using standard shop lights. You know, I'm sure you've seen them, the 48-inch hanging shop lights that you just plug in. They do fine. They're super bright. That's actually what I have out there right now. It's just got grow lights in it for when I was starting seeds and I didn't change the light bulbs out. But I'm thinking on putting 3 in here. My workstations are going to be along this wall and then along that wall. So I'm thinking maybe 2 in a row over there, and then we'll put 1 here just for extra light, or whatever over in this corner. May turn it, hang it this way. I don't know yet. We'll see. But anyway, I put a box in there. So it's just going to be standard outlets. Once again, there's just going to be these 2 random outlets in the ceiling. The only difference is they'll be switched. so we'll be able to switch it on and off. It's the same setup I have in the garage. When I wired it, I put a switch right inside the door in the foyer, the little mud foyer. I put a switch there so that that'll flip that outlet on and off, and that allows that light to turn on and off without having to cut and splice the wiring on the light, all that stuff. It keeps it simple. You can repurpose the lights if you need to without modifying them, and it works really good. It's bright light. So that's the idea. Now let me show you. So this is a new construction box. This is actually a round ceiling box. This would be for like a light fixture in a ceiling, a typical light fixture. And you can see it's just it's got a flat side here with a little lip on it. See that little lip there? That lip is made to fit if your ceiling joist runs like this. Well, it's upside down. If your ceiling joist is running across here, you can just slide this right up against it, so that leaves a 1/2 inch lip there. That 1/2 inch lip is for sheetrock. So when you put your sheetrock up and you trim around this blue box here, this front part here sets flush with your ceiling, so that when you put your light fixture up, it'll set nice and flush. And then it's got the 2 little nails here, and all that is you set it up there, and you drive those nails in, and then you've got a box. So that's a light box. This is a standard outlet box, and the nails are drove through because I pulled this one off. But typically the nails are set out like the ceiling box was. So that's your standard outlet box. Same thing, it's got these little tabs on the side. So you just set it right up against your stud, set it up flush like that, and then drive the nails in. You got a little box there for your outlet, and then when you put your sheetrock or your sheeting or whatever you trim around it, that sets flush with the wall when the wall sets there. And that's all there is to it. So that's the boxes. Now I'll show you the wiring. Hopefully that light doesn't cast a shadow. This is called Romex. Romex is basically wire that's in a Romex sleeve. Alright, this is 12-2 and this is 14-2. Now when I say 12, that means 12 gauge, or 14, that means 14 gauge. Now you guys in the UK and other places, it's actually going to be in millimeters. It's not the same here, and you guys over there know that. And I used to know the millimeters when I was doing a lot of electrical work in Iraq. I worked with a bunch of electricians from England, and they had me learned pretty quick on the metric system, but I can't remember it now because I haven't used it. But anyway, this is your standard wiring. When I say that, like for instance, this is 14-2, so the -2 means that there are 2 common wires. Alright, well, not common wires, but 2 insulated wires. One's your hot and one's your neutral, and then you'll also have a 3rd wire in there that's your ground. You should always have a ground. And for this, it's, well, not always, but in this purpose it will. This will say 14-2 with ground. And that means you've got 2 wires that are 14 gauge and then a 14 gauge ground. Now, for some other wiring purposes like ceiling fans, where you want to put in 2 switches, one that'll control the fan and one that'll control the light, you need to use a 14-3. And that means you'll have a black, a red, and a white, and a ground. So your black will be hot, your red will be hot, and your white will be your neutral, and then of course your ground. You can also use it for 3-way switches, things like that. But your standard wiring, 12 gauge and 14 gauge. We run 12 gauge for the outlets and 14 gauge for the lights, and that should handle pretty much anything you're doing on a residential level. So anyway, I've got the boxes in up top. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the 14 gauge wire in and get those wired up, and we'll be all roughed. Alright guys, so pretty much all the wiring's done. I'm just putting on the last little bit right now. I think I mentioned it before, but another component of the of roughing in your wiring is once you get everything ran in, you need to put nail plates on your studs where your wire goes through. So we cut a hole here and ran a wire through it. So we want to take these stud plates and just put them right where it goes through and nail them on there. And what that'll do is when we put our ceiling on here, and you do it around the walls too, we put our ceiling on here, we go to attaching that, we hit one of those plates, that'll keep us from driving a nail or a screw through our wire. So they're real simple. They're just a little metal plate, and they've got two little bent out tips on them. You just hold them up where you want it. And drive those tips in, and that will protect your wire. And I'm done doing underneath right now, but anywhere where there's not decking up top, we're going to have to go through and put them up top as well, and that'll keep us from driving the nails through the wire when we put the decking down on top. Alright, so like I said, pretty much all the wiring is in. You can see there we've got all the wiring pulled down, all the wiring in all the boxes in here. So we're ready to go, ready to put in the insulation and start doing the sheeting now that all the wiring is roughed in. So basically, I'll give you a little bit of a layout, kind of what we're looking at here. Here's the door it's going to go in. It's going to open in. And I spent, like I said before, I spent some time trying to decide how I'm going to do everything. So over here, I'm going to put a small offset rack here, maybe a little gun rack or something that's exposed, maybe double stack or something, I don't know. And then my safe is going to go right here, and that's going to take up a big section there. It's 48 inches wide. And then there'll be a little cabinet, or the main bench will run across this whole wall here, and then it'll kind of turn out right here to butt into the side of the safe. So it'll look kind of built in. We'll put some shelves up here on the wall, and we'll have that big bench across there. I don't know my layout for my bench yet. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do, but we're going to try to make it work with the space that we have. I remember on my last bench, I was kind of limited for space, so I think I might dedicate this whole section here for gunsmithing, and then anyway, it'll come over to the corner, wrap the corner, and then go all the way to about 24 inches from the wall here. I'm going to set that cabinet right there that I picked up on barter. I'm going to put it right here in the corner. So that'll be a nice little cabinet to keep powder in and primers and all that good stuff. And so we'll have our bench here. We'll strictly make this maybe the Hornady bench, and keep the put the Hornady AP lock and load there. And then we'll have to have somewhere to put the lubricizer and the single stage press, our Lyman single stage press. So, but something of that kind of layout there. So we'll have, like I said, a rack, safe, and then bench all the way across here, and turn the corner and come all the way to this wall where we'll have a big cabinet there. We got our double light switch in there, one for the overhead lights and one for the storage light up above. And then we'll hang a fluorescent shop, maybe catty cornered here, so we'll get good light in this corner. And then we'll put two lights of those shop lights back to back there. So anyway, that's pretty much the extent of what we had to do today. Excuse me. So we'll get like I said, get some insulation. We got to get the rest of the decking up top. Get that down. And I think for the ceiling, I'm going to use maybe some tongue and groove pine or something. And excuse me again, all this dust I started up sweeping up. Got my allergies going now. But anyway, yeah, we'll get some decking up top. Use some tongue and groove pine for the ceiling maybe, and then for the walls, we'll try to do maybe a combination of just some OSB board like this, and then do some incorporate some pegboard like we did at the other shop to hang stuff on. So anyway, that's it for roughing in your wiring on the gun shop video, and stay tuned for the next one. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Excuse me again. Don't forget to rate and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. So anyway, guys, until next time, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.